Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1827, year 6. Year 6, day 1. My Amazon orders just pulled up. They said between 6 and 6:30. They just pulled up right as we went live. And my dog hasn't even told me. She's too busy laying in her bed. Anyway, so we're on year 6, day 1. I hope you were able to join us last night. We had a lot of fun. Thanks again to Casey for coming on and just unloading with lots of wisdom on the different. We just had a great conversation. If you missed last night's one, please go back and watch it. It was a really cool conversation that we had, and Casey was just dropping lots of golden nuggets and things. And for those of you that showed up live and signed up to get your now she's looking out the window. She's telling me there's somebody out the window. It's okay, Zeffie, good girl. And those of you that scanned the code that was up in the corner up there to get your free gift, I hope you enjoy your free gift. It will be shipping out either tomorrow or Monday. I'm not sure which, but it has been ordered. The orders have been processed and everything, so it's going to be coming your way very, very soon. So thank you for those that joined in last night, especially those that left comments as we were going. It was a lot of fun. I totally enjoyed it. So now we're promoting again the Love to Read book club. We've got lots of really cool stuff coming up over the next few weeks. Just making sure she got everything up in one trip. Yep, she did. Okay, so it's all by my door now. Anyway, okay. Right, back on track. Anything? See, and that's what we were talking about last night. You just got to roll with it, go with the flow and roll with everything that happens. Think, Zeffie, good girl. Come here. Good girl. You was good girl. Thank you for letting me know. Good girl. Anything can go wrong. No podcast is ever going to be perfect. You can have everything. You can be as prepared as you want to be, and you'll have Amazon turning up at the door, the dog letting you know that they're coming, and everything else. Just go with the flow. It's just that way. But anyway, so one of the things we talked about last night is that we've got the Love to Read book club that is back up and back active again. We've got a group on Facebook. So please go there, request to join. If you scan the QR code, it will take you right to the group. Our first book we're going to be doing is this one here. Oops, sorry, my bookmark's in the way. It's okay, I haven't started reading yet. It's called The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, and we're going to be talking about this one on September the 7th. So the first Saturday of every month is when we're actually going to get on Zoom, and we're going to have a discussion about the book of the month. And then when we're having that discussion, we're going to release we're going to let everybody know what the next book is going to be for the following month. And then that evening on the podcast, you'll get to hear our review. You'll get to hear some of the feedback from the book that we read that month. And you'll also learn what we're going to be reading for the following month. So that's going to be the first Saturday of every month. Our Zoom meetings are going to be at 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. And then, of course, we go live at 6 p.m. Pacific. So that's the book club thing. What else? I actually had a list yesterday. I didn't get through any of my lists because we just had such a great conversation. We've got more guests coming up for you. I am working on some really cool guests. So I've got 3 so far booked for the month of August, and so we'll get you more information about those people as the time gets closer and tell you about them. But so far, I've got somebody on the 12th, the 13th, and the 23rd. So mark those in your calendar for special guests. There's going to be more coming. I'm reaching out to people and asking them to come on the show to fill your minds with wonderful stuff on how you can live your best life now. Every time we bring a guest on, it is always with the goal in mind of them sharing their story on how they are living their best life now, or a service that they have that can help you live your best life now. So I'm always on the lookout for people that I can bring on to enrich your lives, because that's our whole goal here at Before the Dirt Nap, is to live your best life now. Because as we learned through Brad's cancer, and just through the first 18 months of his journey, we learned that life is short, and for some people it is even shorter. Even if you live to be 90 or 100 or whatever, it's still a short life in comparison in the whole timeline thing. It's a blip. Some people get half a blip because they don't get to live a full productive. Well, people get to live a full productive life no matter what. Even if they die young or they die older, it doesn't matter. They still got to live a full, productive life. And I know there's a lot of times that we turn around and we go, oh, but they died so young. They had so much potential, da, 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 and you're talking about all the things. I totally get that. I do. I totally, totally get that. But you also got to look at the bigger scheme of things, is that they were here. The way I look at it is that everybody is on this earth. We're all spiritual beings having a human experience, and we are only here for a finite amount of time. Some longer than others. Totally get that. And this is what I believe. So take with a grain of salt if you want to, or you may agree with me, or you may have your own theories. I would love to hear other people's theories. I love listening to what other people's ideas are and things like that. But, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and we're on this earth for a finite amount of time, and we are here to accomplish a mission. What is our mission? I don't know. Everybody gets their own. So I'm getting... Throat's being funny today. Everybody has their own mission and everything else. You might get through your life, complete your mission, not even realize you've completed your mission. But when your mission is done, it is time for your spiritual self to go off to the next plane of existence. And do whatever comes next. Different people have different beliefs about what happens when we die. And I totally respect whatever your beliefs are. Totally respect. Totally respect. I'm not going to force my beliefs on other people. That is just something I've always said I wouldn't do. People believe what they want to believe, and I totally respect them. Anyway, moving on from that. So, so we learned that life is short. We learned that laughter is definitely the best medicine. Especially when you're doing those big, deep belly laughs. Those are the really, really good ones. Because they become an aerobic system for your internal organs. And one of the things is that we got told before Brad had his first lower anterior resectional, which is basically meaning they cut him from, was it here? Yeah, they cut him from down here, basically the bottom of the rib cage, all the way down to almost to the groin. So and then they stapled it all close. So he ended up with what they call the zipper scar. But they opened him up and they went in and they removed 12 inches of rectum and colon, and left him with a 2-inch rectum, and then they had to sew it all up. And because they had been operating in that area, they needed that area to heal, so they couldn't have any food or waste going through that area. So they formed on his right side what they call an ileostomy, which is when they bring the lower intestine up to the skin, cut a slit in it, bring it out on top of the skin there, and then there's a bag that goes over it. So you can either have an ileostomy, which is off the lower intestine, or you have a colostomy, which is more permanent and off the large intestine. And you'll hear you hear some people talking about colostomies and colostomy bags. So yes, those are the permanent ones. The ileostomy is the temporary one. Although in some cases there is times when permanent ones can be ileostomies, but mostly it is ileostomy is a temporary one. And so, and the ostomy nurse that we had to consult with before, because Brad had to go in the day before surgery and get marked as to where the ostomy was to be placed. And of course, she had him standing there looking at him, evaluating his whole belly area, and then marking, if it's a colostomy, it goes here. If it's an ileostomy, it goes here, putting the marks on. And they ended up not putting them in the place that was marked because they, I can't remember what the doctor said. It was, 15, when was it? 2008. So what's that? Cheapest, 16 years ago. My math today is, whew. Anyway, but she told us, and she was very good about this. She says, I don't care whether you're male or female. She says, this intestinal system is definitely female. You muck around with it, it's shutting down. And it will wake up in its own damn time, is basically what she told us. So she didn't care whether you were male or female. She says the intestinal system is female and it does not like being mucked around with. She said it will just shut down. And it will wake up when it's good and ready. And we're like, okay. Well, Brad's and most of them wake up within 7 days of the surgery, because most people after they have that surgery are only in hospital for like 7 days. Brad was there for 21. His was taking a long time to wake up. And so we'd get him up, and I was walking him around the wards as often as I could get him to get out of bed. And one of the nurses told us that, we had an engineer staying in here one time, and he was bored. So he calculated by counting the number of tiles on the track that he would walk around the ward. I guess basically stood on the same tile and walked around, taking the size of the tile. He worked out how many laps he had to do to equal 1 mile. And it was like, well, how many did he have to do? And I think it was like 4 or 5. What was it? Like 11. He had to do 11 laps to equal a mile. And so I was like, right. That gave me my goal. That gave me a goal for Brad for every day. He had to do at least 1 mile. And it didn't matter if he did 4 laps and took a break. We got up and did another 4 laps and did another 3 laps later on. He was doing at minimum 11 laps a day. And so we had on the board what the goal was. And so we would get up and we'd walk. And Brad was sort of like, I need to know which row of tiles was he standing on? Because Brad, being engineering mind, software, architect, and all that sort of stuff, I'm not sure if this is true or not. I'm going to calculate it myself. He was going to work it out for himself. And they said, I don't remember which tile he was on, but it was 11 laps. And I said, it doesn't matter which tile it's on, sweetie. You're doing 11 laps a day. And if it's a mile, it's a mile. If it's just under or just over, you're still doing 11 laps at minimum. And so we would spend a lot of time. And of course, whenever he had to go for a walk, he had to take the pole with him that had the IV stuff on him. And you'd meet other people out in the hallway walking around with their poles and everything. Everybody was out walking with their poles. And when Brad was sleeping, I would be doing laps. I don't know how many laps I did that entire 21 days he was in hospital, or how many laps I did a day. I was doing a lot of laps, and I would meet up with people along the way and we'd chit chat, and you got to meet a lot of people and all of that. And one woman one night, she was this beautiful African lady, and Nigeria. She's from Nigeria, and beautiful, gorgeous young lady, absolutely gorgeous. And so we were talking, and she was talking about some of her. People would just spill their guts out to me. They would tell me all their problems, their issues, everything else, because I took the time just to say hello. All I was saying, hey, how are you doing today? As we walked like about 5 or 6 laps. And I would get the whole life story and everything else. And so she was telling me her story and how she had come to America to have this particular surgery. And I said, well, how's recovery going? She goes, oh, it's going really good. She says, I'm having a really good day. She says, a really good day today. And she said, we're doing tests in a few days, blah, blah, blah. And then like a few days later, I saw her and she was walking pretty well. A few days later, I saw her, she could barely move. And I'm like, and I went up to her and I called her name and I sat and asked her what was going on and everything else. She said, we got the test results back. And then she starts literally almost crying on my shoulder as we're walking. And things had suddenly taken a dive, and she was all concerned about what was going to happen next. And they were trying to figure out what they were going to do next. So she had this whole unknown thing going on. What I started doing in the hospital was I wanted people to laugh. Because laughter is good. And if you can get that belly laugh going, it's a really good aerobic exercise for the internal organs. What walking does, and the reason that so many they're recommending walking so much, is that walking will wake up the intestinal system, your whole digestive system. It's very, very good for the digestive system is walking. But not only that, laughing and getting those belly laughs going is also good for the digestive system. So that was my goal, was to try and get people to smile or laugh. So I was trying, and so I got my new friend to, when we were walking around and stuff, and she was so down on everything else. I said, okay. I said, what do you know? And so she told me, I says, okay, at least you know those facts. I said, you can't worry about the other stuff because you don't know what's going to happen. I said, they could turn around and say, oh, we just need you to do we just need to do blah, 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 and you'll be off on gold. And I said, concentrate on the good stuff that's going to happen. So I was doing these like motivational talks with people as I'm walking around the hospital, and I was like, this is really, I enjoyed it because it helped me take my mind off Brad sleeping in bed. But, about the road coming up for us with him having to go through chemo and everything, getting him healthy enough to go through chemo, which we almost lost him after the first 2 treatments because his body reacted so much. But then later on we found it. And so they suspended all chemo until they could do an early reversal. Usually the reversal on an ileostomy in Brad's case was supposed to be after he had finished his 12 rounds of chemo, which happened every 2 weeks. So 24 weeks after he started was when and the last one done. And then he'd go and get his reversal done in like 2 weeks after that. So you're looking at not 52 weeks in a year. So you're looking almost half a year, 6 months. Yeah, no, they went for an early reversal on him because he was not handling the chemo very well. And then we found out why he wasn't handling the chemo, because he had lost some blood during surgery, which they expected, and they had warned us about that. But he was on the borderline of do they infuse him or do they not infuse him? And so when they put him in for the early reversal, they did all the pre-op and everything else, and they actually ordered him into hospital a week before the surgery. So the surgery was scheduled. They put him into hospital a week before the surgery so they could get his blood numbers up, because his blood work was all over the place. His blood was very, very low, so they had to so they did have to give him blood transfusions in the end. So he got all the blood transfusions and everything else, and that got his number, got the blood work numbers back up, and then they had to give him the electrolytes and stuff to get all of those in balance and everything else. So this was a whole week-long process. And so they said if they had tried to operate him on him a week beforehand, when everything was all the numbers were low, it would have killed him. So I'm very thankful for all the medical staff that did their job and realized what was going on and got it dealt with beforehand. So with my other lady, we started talking about, what's the positive things that could come out of you talking with the doctors tomorrow once they go over the test results and things and when they come back. And so she's talking about all the positive stuff. I said, oh, okay, so let's concentrate on that. And I said, what faith are you? And I said, do you believe in any, do you have any religion, any faith that you believe in or anything? And she's like, yes. I says, okay. So whatever it is that you do with I says, I'm Christian, I pray. So I will say some prayers for you tonight. Whatever it is that you do in your faith to call upon whoever it is that you believe in, make sure that you do that too. And I said, somewhere between all of that, we've got you covered. And so she was sort of like, so she starts chuckling a little bit. So we had her walking, but she was getting very, very weak as we were walking. So I said, Justice, look, you need to go lay down. Because I could see that she was slowing down and she was leaning on me very heavily. And so I actually saw one of the nurses. I said, can we get a wheelchair? And she's like, yeah. So the nurses loved me. So they went and got a wheelchair, because I basically I looked after Brad for just about everything except giving him his medication and changing the IVs. I was changing his dressings. I was emptying out all the fluid stuff, recording it on the board for the nurses. They would actually argue over who was going to look after Brad that day, because they wanted an easy patient to look after. And they came in once an hour to check on everything, and they had a board that they had to sign once an hour. And we had a relief nurse one time that I had to go and chase down at one point. And because the IV was beeping, and Brad pressed the button and let them know the IV was needed replacement. So he's like, yeah, I'll be right in. And half an hour later, he didn't come in. So I went out the desk. He's sitting on the computer playing solitaire. And I said to him, I says, look, my husband's in this bed here. He needs his IV checked. Oh, yes, I'll be right there. I says, no. I said, if you're not there within 30 seconds or a minute, I might have given him a minute. I said, I'm going to change it myself. I said, I've watched you guys changing that IV enough that I can probably figure it out. I would tell you, that nurse never moved so fast. He was terrified that I would actually do it. And I had watched them enough that I figured out, then it goes up here, you turn it upside down, you put this and you put it back up there, and then you get the squeezy thingy going and you put it down and you wind it through here. And, I had it all worked out. I couldn't remember the buttons though. I had worked out how to change the bag. And basically it was just take the old bag off, pull the sharp thing out, put it into the new bag, hang it back up, squeeze the little bulb thing, and then reset everything on the panel. And I said, no, I figured between Brad and I would figure it all out. And so I said, if you don't go and change his bag, I will. So he was up and out of there pretty quickly. And then before he left, I says, and while you're here, those bulbs need emptying. And they had the drainage bulbs on them. And I said, because they haven't been, and this is before I took over doing that duty. And so he goes and changes them and empties them out and never records all of that. And then he goes to walk out there. I says, where are you going? He says, well, I'm done now. I says, no, you're not. He goes, well, no. I says, those bulbs are full again. They need to be re-emptied. It's like, no, they're not. And I said, yeah. I said, because you left it so long, you didn't come and check on it, that they have filled up back into his body. So now the body's draining it all. So I said, you're going to stay here and empty that bulbs every time it fills up, because it's only taken a few seconds before you can leave. So I think it was like 20 minutes before he got out of that room. But that was on Saturday. And then he comes at the end of his shift and goes and signs off down all the things. And I'm like looking at that game. I was not happy. So when the head nurse was on again on Monday, and she's coming around with the doctors, she comes over and she's standing by. She says, oh, how's everything going? I says, fine. I says, who do I talk to about a nurse? Who do I make a complaint to about a nurse? She says, what happened? I says, well, we had an issue on Saturday. And I explained the whole thing to her. And she says, we will make sure that nurse never works in here again. Never works with your husband again. I says, thank you very much. So when one of Brad's roommates, when Brad got a new roommate, and the mother's name was Ellen, so we had Ellen and Helen, and then that was Mike, was her son, and her stepfather, her husband, which was Mike's stepfather, was Fred. Well, we had just named Brad's ileostomy Freddie that morning. Yes, that slipped out. So she happened to get this nurse that we had, and I said to her, I says, let me give you a heads up about him. I said, he is not allowed to work. He's not allowed to take care of Brad at all anymore. And she's like, why? What happened? So I told her what happened. She says, I'll keep my eye on that. She was on him like crazy. She was stuck to him like glue. She needed something. She went out there and she stayed there until he came and did whatever it was she needed him to do. She was stuck to him like glue. So he didn't get, and she was making sure that he was in there once an hour and signing the board off and everything. But yeah, that was, you're going through all of that. There's a lot of stress and everything going on, but the laughter helped relieve a lot of stress, which I think is why Brad and I decided we're just going to have fun. We're stuck here in the hospital. Let's just make it as fun as we can. And so when he was resting, I'd be walking, talking with the other patients, and they'd be spilling telling me all about their life stories, what's going on with their medical challenges and all of that. And I had some great conversations walking around those hallways. But my goal was to make them feel better, share laughter, because I knew laughter was the best medicine. And especially for those that had been through surgeries similar to Brad, we needed to wake up the intestinal system. So laughter was a good way to do that. So, yeah. But I had a lot of fun on that ward. And what was really cool is that when we were back 4 months later, and everybody on all the staff knew that Brad's ileostomy was called Freddie. And this is 4 months later, we're back on the same ward. And one of the guys who had actually been on night shift at the time, he was one of the night nurses who looked after Brad when I wasn't there. He had switched to the day shift, and he sees Brad. We're walking around, we're doing our laps. I said to Brad, we are starting this off on day one. When you're in hospital here, we are walking the wards. We're walking your laps. We're getting them in, and when surgery comes on, we're going to keep walking. It's like, okay. So he'd actually agreed to that. And so we're busy around walking around the laps and all of that, just reacquainting ourselves with the place. And this nurse who used to work the night shift walks out of the storage room, and he looks at Fred and he goes, hey guys, he says, are you back here to get rid of Freddie? We're like, yeah. 4 months later, they all remembered Freddie. So you never know. So it was good. We had a lot of laughter that time too. So anyway, I got no idea how I got onto that. Oh yeah. So life is short. Laughter is the best medicine. And hugs. You need 4 hugs a day to survive, 8 hugs a day for maintenance, and 12 hugs a day for growth. And when you give a hug, it's got to be held for a minimum of 15 to 20 seconds, because that gives enough time that if you're giving somebody a true hug, because you don't know you need to express something to them, you need to tell them something, but you just can't find the words. You're in one of those moments where you just don't know the words. And so you just give them like a 15 to 20 second hug. That is enough time for your soul to talk to their soul, and they get it. They understand what you're trying to, and the souls communicate with each other with the message that you wanted to get across when words fail you. So go give somebody a hug. And I know 15 to 20 seconds seems a really long time when you're in a hug, but I will tell you, it is a very healing time. And when you finish those 15 to 20 second hugs, that just feels so much better. And I happen to have some nieces and nephews that give amazing hugs, and like they just wrap you in their arms and hang on tight. And so I love when I go to see my nieces and nephews, love going to see them and getting their hugs, because they're just so good. And they would just stand there and just hug you. We could be standing like that for a minute. And I have no problem with that at all. I love my hugs. I miss my hugs. Poor Zeffy gets hugged a lot, and yes. But anyway, so remember that life is short. You want to live life to its fullest. You want to live your best life now the best way you can. Make sure you got laughter in there every day. Make sure you get hugs every day. Talk to people every day, even if it's just to say hi. And just share a smile. A smile is free. It can be easily given away. A lot of times when we're out in the dog park and stuff, you see the regulars out there walking, it's wave a hand and yell a hi, or just smile, smile and wave. But that smile could be the brightest spark in somebody's day. They could have been having a crappy day and they see you walking down the path there and you give them a smile and a wave, and that could immediately lift their entire day and make them feel so much better. So don't be stingy with your smiles. They are free to give away. They don't hurt anybody. Just share a smile. So with that, that's year 6, day 1 complete. So scan the QR code to join the reading group. This is the book we are reading right now, The Housemaid. Yes, my bookmark is still sitting in prologue. It's been a crazy week so far. So but I'm planning on spending time this week just diving into this book. It's my commitment. I know I've still got boxes to unpack to get the books on the bookcases and stuff, but I want to get into this book and get it read. So anyway, with that, I am out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening. Go share a smile. Go hug somebody, 15 to 20 seconds, and make sure it's not a stranger that could be taken the wrong way. Hug a loved one or a friend. Yes. So go out, share a hug, share some laughter, share a smile, and have a super fantastic sparkling evening. And we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6